Hello. Okay, everyone. Hi. Good morning, or is it afternoon? I think it's actually good afternoon, Saturday. Excited to share with you another amazing powerhouse woman that I'm going to interview here in our Open to Miracles group. So, this vision you see before you is Rifa Thorpe-Tracey. And hey, Rifa, good to have you here today.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. And I just want to say, who wants to be called Rifa Thorpe-Tracey? It's such a great name.
There's a whole story behind that. I'll tell you another time. But yeah, thank you. It's so lovely to see you, Mel.
Oh, ditto. And I must say, I'm loving your look with the sparkly, beautiful top you're wearing there. And let me tell you everyone about Rifa. And Rifa and I have been connecting online for some time. We're actually going to meet in person for the first time next week, which I'm super excited about. And I've got so many questions for Rifa. So actually, this interview, I'm as keen to learn more about Rifa as all of you are in this group. So Rifa Thorpe-Tracey is a highly accomplished coach and founder of Refigure Limited, with a focus on teaching women to create their big vision. As you know, I love vision too, so we're just like absolute kindred spirits in that respect. And with over 25 years of consulting experience, Rifa has won numerous awards and accolades for her work, as well as contributing to publications such as The Times and CNN. She's also formed many networks and groups in the south of England where she lives. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that. There's so much I could be saying about Rifa, but that's the top level stuff. Basically, a high achiever and someone who loves bringing people together for good. Does that sum it up, Rifa? Is that accurate?
Oh, thank you. It sounds great. She sounds great, this Reefer woman.
She? Who is she?
Who
Let's
is
find
she?
out. So, Rifa, can we just start by like orienting ourselves? Like, what does your business do? What does all of that mean? And also tell us a little bit about your journey into doing the work you do, if that's okay.
Oh. So I coach women in mainly the digital and creative industries. So that might be women working in agencies or startups, female producers, programmers, and also working with women in universities, corporates, or running their own business. And so many women who are working in any industry that's really male dominated have the same issues that I encountered when I was working in the digital sector. And I've created these support networks for women in tech in order to have, well, originally for some support for me. And then that turned into a coaching business. I was giving a lot of free mentoring for women, and the coaching work really allows me to bring in meditation and healing work that I studied that helped me get through the day when I was working full time for people. Yes,
Mm,
that's really how I got into helping and
mm.
finding niche.
Oh, wonderful. So yeah, I'm curious about the meditation and healing work. Perhaps you can weave that in as we discuss. Curious to know what that is. And you just talked about it helped you get through what you were facing in that tech world, the corporate world, etc. What's the most challenging thing you've encountered in your life or your business, and how did you deal with it? Because like business is all about challenges, isn't it? I mean, there's lots of wins and rewards, but there's like challenges, it seems, almost every day. What's the biggest
Yeah.
one for you today?
Yeah, I think when I first started in the digital industry, it was very volatile. There weren't many structures. I was working in small companies, so there weren't HR departments that you could go and talk to. And so also very much the sort of lines blurred between friendship and working together. And so it would be really personal if something happened at the end of a project. And I talk about this in some of my talks about being made redundant, even though I'd really over delivered and worked night and day on a project, and still it wasn't quite good enough. And it brought up so many feelings of not being good enough, imposter syndrome, or that almost like you're not good enough personally because you're so busy. You can give 110%, but still you don't actually get the achievement or the the rewards or the compliments or even your job taken away from you.
Mm,
It built up a lot of resilience for me,
mm,
but I still see these sorts of patterns happening with people. I mean, it's not never guaranteed, that you're going to stay in a job for 50 years, maybe like our families did in the past. But yeah, it's an interesting time. I felt like very overwhelmed and unsupported. And that's why I set up these different networks for women, because you need it reflected back to you, just like you've done, telling
mm.
me my achievements, because we forget so easily. um
So true.
yeah,
So
my journey into self-inquiry after found myself made redundant was to actually think, what is it I really want out of life? And that's why I became a yoga teacher, started to learn about Indian philosophy, meditation, manifesting, and that helped me work out what I really wanted and who I wanted to really help, because we've only got a finite amount of energy and time. So why was I helping other people with their businesses and their products and services? I had to really understand my true worth.
I love that. I love the true worth thing. It's interesting you had that reaction to me reading out about, your history, your bio, as we like to call it, because I literally had the same reaction. I can't remember where I was now. Somebody was interviewing me, or I was doing a workshop somewhere, and someone read out what I had done. And I was listening and thinking, did I really do all that? Is that really me? It's almost like this weird disconnect that often we have as women, because I think we're trained to think that way, actually. I don't think it's natural. I think we're trained into it. And great to hear you're a keen meditator. My husband meditates every day, like 20 minutes pretty much every day. How often are you using that? Do you just do it as and when, or is it a practice for you?
Well, I've learned as lots of different kinds of meditation, oneness meditation, TM, transcendental meditation. I always was jealous of people who would like go, oh, I've got to go and meditate now, because TM people meditate twice a day at the same time. So everybody's like meditating at the same time. A bit like Muslim people who pray
Yes.
5 times a day at the same
Yeah.
time. Energy is there. So I used to feel jealous of people who would say they love meditating and like it's like going into a warm bath. And I didn't, it took me years to get to that point, and now I've got it. It's different. It's like especially during lockdown, I found it really helpful. Every time I'd get a bit overwhelmed or spaced out, I would just sit and meditate. So I try and meditate twice a day as well, like first
Oh,
in the morning and in the evening. And any time that I have spare time, on a train or waiting for someone in a cafe, I'll sit and just do a little bit of tuning in.
wow, that's so impressive, the discipline. And it's interesting you talk about Islam, because one of my dearest colleagues that I work with a lot is a Muslim, and she will sometimes say on a call, oh, can we just take a break? I just need to go and pray. And I often think, what a brilliant ego interrupt, like, because our ego can take over our habits, and just to have that interruption of like peace is really important, because all the messages we're being fed is the opposite, like busy, 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 so I love that, and I can really imagine the benefits that it brings to your clients. Let's just talk about your clients for a minute. So who is your ideal client? Because there's nearly 800 people in this group. I'm sure there are people here who either work in tech or know people in tech. Who should we be sending to you? Like, what's your typical or ideal client?
Oh, well, I love working with people who are just starting out, entrepreneurs, that need help, with being seen. A lot of us are struggling with imposter syndrome, people who just need the practical, but also the kind of clearing of any of those blocks, and also around abundance and about charging or about asking for higher salaries or
Mm,
about just allowing ourselves to receive more fun and love and joy into our lives. Um, I really love working with entrepreneurs, but I also work with women who are in the corporate sector. But also, I love to work with women of color. They're my people.
beautiful. Okay, so if you're watching and you fit one of those, check. We're going to tell you at the end of this interview something Rifa is doing that I think everyone here actually should be interested in. And I love this emphasis you have on self-worth and abundance, because I was talking to a colleague the other day who runs a seven-figure business. And in fact, she was running a multi-seven-figure business at one point. She's just starting over again. And when I meet people like that, I always want to know what's the secret, like how did you get there? And I said, what's the secret to really getting into that zone of abundance? And she said, she thought for a minute and then she said, being willing to receive. And I just heard you say that, something along those lines of, the receiving and knowing your worth is a really important part of that. So, I asked you before, about the challenge you face, and it was challenging working in that insecure background in corporate. No matter how hard you work, you never know if you're going to be there the next day. You're not necessarily getting the acknowledgements that we as human beings need. Let's ask a more positive question now. What makes you wildly happy?
Oh, this is such a lovely question. I love traveling. I love traveling to different places. Last year, I went to California, to Amsterdam, to Paris. I love like traveling, creating new memories, meeting new people. Last year we went to a music festival called Primavera, and I went VIP for the first time. And I just love sort of new experiences. Trying different food is always my most fun thing to do. And I love being with my husband, and we love going to art exhibitions and spaces. We have a podcast where we talk about culture and art and film. And yeah, that's what I really love. And a few years ago, I started being more disciplined about painting, and I've got into I like find it quite difficult even talking about it because it brings up so much emotion for me, and like creating, painting, being seen, having people look at my work. And this year I'm actually putting some of my work into an exhibition in Brighton. So yeah, that's what I like doing, getting out of my comfort zone, but also just enjoying other people's art.
Wow, you may have told me this before, but it hasn't lodged in that you're a painter. So when we meet, we're going to have to show each other pictures of our work because I love to paint. In fact, I'm going to be on a painting retreat next week. So I love to travel to. Where's the best place you've ever traveled to? Where would you recommend for people who are like, yeah, I'm going to travel this year?
Well, I really love Thailand. I'm quite like, um, I went to some obscure places, in the past. In the 90s, I went to South Africa and Australia by myself, and Nepal I went to. And then I kind of forgot about Europe. So Barcelona and Amsterdam are some of my
Yeah.
favorite cities. This year, I would love to go to Mexico City and do loads of the art trails and go and see Frida Kahlo's house and,
Yes.
immerse myself in that culture. But I really love Southeast Asia, Thailand, the beaches. And, I know that most people have been there loads of times, but for me, it was quite a revelation that the north of Thailand is really beautiful and has a whole different vibe.
Mm. Oh, I'm just dreaming already because I've never ever been to Thailand. And
Yeah.
as I'm getting older, I'm like, I need to get into action and go to some of these places before it's too late. Let's get out there. So I'm thinking,
Thailand's unusual because it never was colonized. So
yeah,
it's got this vibe of like the women, whatever, even if they were in, working in Bangkok as a sex worker, for example, when they
mm,
go back to their villages and retire, they're still revered, like respected because they were
yes,
doing that work for their families. And they also, I never felt unsafe in Thailand. Women are really respected. It's in the land, and the culture is so much more open to all kinds of different people, which is what I love about
oh,
it.
wow. I must go. I mean, I've never heard a bad thing said about it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I must go. I really want to do that. And yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I know it's what I'm about. And I'm starting to hear it's probably what you're about as well, is letting dreams breathe, talking about them, letting them live, living them, doing these things. Because so many people talk about it and then they get to 80 and they're not doing it. Not that 80 is too late, by the way, but it certainly can be harder in later life to break those old patterns. So I
Yeah.
think it's so important to speak out what you want and actually take action to make it happen. So brings me to my next question, really, which is, you're doing good with your work. I think most entrepreneurs have some kind of a mission. So, what in the world do you want to change? If you indeed you do, it sounds like you've got a bit of a mission there.
Well, I would love to help everyone learn the tools to open their hearts and awaken their true potential. if everyone in positions of power collectively healed their pain and suffering, could we have a world that had different systems, different laws, and let's end war and pain? And obviously, I'm drawn to helping women of color from all different backgrounds, whether they're starting out in their careers or in leadership positions. But whenever we help any woman at all, they spread that love, to their communities, their families, So that's really where my heart sits, really.
That touched me so much when you said that. I felt such a spark of hope, because I think the more people that speak that out and call for it, the more we begin to believe that this is really possible. It's interesting you're focusing on women and women of color in particular, because when you were talking earlier about Thailand wasn't colonized, I started thinking about, how Great Britain and quite a lot of European countries colonized. I think it was something like 94% of the world. I think there were very few countries that weren't colonized. And of course, along with that came the patriarchy. And so there's all these systems that we've all, whether we're black, brown, or white, have embedded inside our psyche that we're all trying to dismantle and remove and deal with all the pain and hurt that it's caused. So that's really touched me what you said, because I think it's this big harmful narrative that it's time to climb out of, because there is so much good that we can do. And I do actually agree, it's our turn now as women to really rise up and call for change. I mean, let's not get into what's going on in different parts of the world because we'll just talk about it forever, but it's painful to read about and see on the news, and it's so flipping unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. So, tell us about your business dream. That's your mission, but where do you hope to be sometime
Oh.
hence in the future? Where are you headed?
Yeah, so I run a group in Brighton for the women of color. I would love to like offer more for them, and all of our events are free. We're doing a self-care day soon in Brighton, but it's always a bit of a struggle to like get sponsorship, to get financial help for that. But wouldn't it be amazing if we could run like more groups nationally in smaller towns where women of color feel isolated, so we get people coming from all over the South Coast, but all over in remote places in the country. That would be really fun to do. And also, I just want to work with more women all over the world, so we are the global majority, people of color. So, I always feel like there's something much more I can offer. And also women working in tech around all the different continents would be amazing. Yeah, so I just want to expand my horizons and meet as many more people as possible. And sometimes that can feel overwhelming, thinking, oh gosh, I've got, a lot of good work I'm already doing. How can I scale that? But just being open to being part of global networks is just really heartening, and I really love to expand my horizons, meet new people all the time. So that's really what I want to do. I want to go global.
Oh, I love that. Ditto. I can't wait till I'm just so excited about being in a room with you next week because we've got so many things in common. What you've just said could have been me speaking. I love making those international connections and, building networks and building community. It's my happy place. So I'm going to ask you a question now. And while you're thinking of the answer, I'm going to just jump into the Facebook, well, not jump in, but have a look at the Facebook group, just see if there's any questions coming up from if there's anyone watching on a Saturday morning. Let's see. My question for you is, who inspires you? Either women leaders, women in business, or maybe even family members. So as you think about that, let me just see if we've got anyone. Now this is always a little bit tricky in Facebook because just trying to be able to be here and look at no, that's not it. And if you are watching live, and hello to anyone who's watching the replay, if you're watching live, would love some questions, what did you live? Whoops. Would love some questions, what did you live? So you hear that, Rifa? Okay, let's see. Let me just turn the sound off on that. There we go. Oh, so I can see Susan's watching us. Susan's saying hello. We've already had 3 hearts. So those of you who are watching, I'm inviting you to pop a question in the chat for Rifa. This is a community interview. It's not just me asking the questions. And it can be any question at all, or you might want to share something, listening to Rifa and her super inspiring commitment to love in the world and healing. How beautiful. What's that bringing up for you? Anything you want to share? So we'll give you a moment to do that as we go back to Rifa and hear who inspires her. So yeah, who's inspiring you, Rifa?
Well, mine's a bit, when I was a teenager, when I first heard about Frida Kahlo, I was so inspired by her that she was sort of eclipsed by her amazing husband, Diego Rivera. And I think it was in the early 90s, there was a massive exhibition of her work at the Tate. I read everything about her. I went to see her work in person. And in my head, I thought they were going to be, I don't know, massive pictures, but they were tiny. And her whole story about her accident when she was a teenager, having to be bedridden, having multiple injuries on her legs, and just her life is really, really inspiring. And it still is for me, she's like the film Frida itself with Salma Hayek. Salma Hayek as an actress had to really fight for to be able to produce this film, and she plays the lead. And I think it was the first time I'd really seen a brown woman, in a leading role, and the story was about her and her perspective. So yeah, Frida Kahlo is still a massive inspiration for me.
Wow, I love that answer. I remember being at art school and reading about her and that horrific accident she had, and how, yeah, she just continued. She kind of rose even higher after the accident, where most of us would have given up, frankly. What an incredible woman. I must watch that film. I started it and didn't finish it. Can't remember why. And it is interesting, isn't it, how we as people of color, women of color, can be so hungry to see ourselves represented on screen. I mean, it's way better than it was when I was growing up, when it was pretty horrific, actually. The kind of representations were, mostly mocking, totally disrespectful, to now. Things are changing. Have you seen Killers of the Flower Moon?
I haven't yet. My husband read the book, and I really need to see that film. Yes, he
Yes.
really needs to see it. There's a series on can't remember now which. There's a series called Reservation Dogs about teenagers on a reservation in
Oh yeah, I've
right
heard about
now.
that. Yeah.
That's really fun to watch. Well, it's sort of bittersweet, but yeah, there's lots of really good things at the moment that about Native
Yeah.
people. Yes, I think
Yeah. It was a heavy film, and what you just reminded me of, like, female leads who are women of color, and she was amazing, the woman that played Molly, although it was still sort of shared through a kind of white male lens. It's Scorsese, he was doing his thing. I could critique it, but it was also, I was watching it thinking, I don't think I've ever seen a film with an American Indian woman in the lead that's like a big kind of blockbuster, and that's good news. It's change, however you might want to critique the film. We must discuss it when
yeah.
you've seen it. Be interested to know what you think of it. Um, so one of my faves, by the way, is Ava DuVernay. Do you like her
Oh
work?
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, her work's so good. And her
Mm.
kind of the fact that she's only one of the very few black female directors in the world, it's really
Yeah.
classy. Yeah.
She's amazing. I think artistically she's incredible, but also as a businesswoman, she's phenomenal. I looked her up after I saw 13th and When They See Us, both of which, were very emotional watches, but quite brilliant. So I looked her up and thought, who is this woman? And I discovered that she also owned a chain of, did she own a chain? Or anyway, she was distributing her information about her products and films through black hairdressers.
Ah.
And like thousands of hairdressing salons across America. And I think she created some kind of network. There was something that connect with them. I can't remember now. And I remember thinking, wow, this woman is not only an absolute ace film director, but she's a brilliant, brilliant marketeer. You know,
Yeah.
like it's just so brilliant. Anyway, let's see. Right, we've got some comments in the chat now. Margot, hey, Margot, great to see you, is saying, Rifa, I'm enjoying hearing about your work. How does opening your heart help build your business? What a brilliant question.
Oh, yeah, well, I think these days there's so much noise on the internet. There's so many people offering all kinds of different services to you. And, obviously as entrepreneurs or as people in business, we connect with other people. So you're not buying a company, you're buying a person. So if you are totally within your heart and expanding your heart and loving your clients and wanting to attract more people to your world, I think that's the first place to start. We have to be more authentic. People sense it straight away if you're not, so that's why, even if it's just checking in with yourself, whether that person is a right fit for you, which is why we have these sort of these mini calls, so people can book a call with me and how we have a chat just to see if we're a good fit. And if we're not, then I'd rather like let you go and find someone who is a better fit.
Mm,
I
I
hope that
love
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, Margot. I wish all business people were asking themselves that question, actually. And beautiful answer, Rifa. And love that you're emphasizing that authenticity, and really checking for a real connection. Beautiful. Margot says, yes, that makes sense. And Susan, who's watching, says, my motto is love is the creation of life. And we've got a little red heart emoji and some little plant emojis there. Love is the creation of life. Beautiful, Susan. It is actually, because anything that isn't love can be quite destructive, right? It's not creative. Margot says it makes me happy to hear. Lovely. I'm loving this conversation. I think this could be a much longer conversation. But, if you're in Rifa's orbit, I'm sure that you will have the space to be diving into that conversation more deeply, which brings me on to Rifa. I know you've got an event coming up soon. I'm going to put the link in the chat, but can you tell us what it is and what people will get from it?
Sure. It's a mastermind with me and a group of people from all over the world. We're going to be talking about clarity and purpose. So what I found with my clients is, or potential clients, is that we all want to have a big vision. We want to be able to leave our legacy in the world, make an impact. But we need to start first with where we're at. So I have some exercise and tools that we can do. They're fun, and we can have some bit of homework as well, working on what we actually really want, what are our base level survival stuff we need to get fixed right now, what we'd love to be doing. And then we can start thinking about the big vision as well. And also tapping into who we really want to serve as well, because that's what's going to sustain you, whatever your situation.
Mm.
About being honest with ourselves, so the clarity and purpose workshop is pay what you can. I'd love to just meet whoever who's drawn to this sort of work, and it's manifesting but in a really practical way.
That sounds great. And so, sorry, just remind me, when is it again? What's the date?
It's on Wednesday the 31st of January, which is 7 o'clock UK time, 7 o'clock in the evening UK time, which I think is 1 o'clock, no, 2 o'clock Eastern and 11 o'clock Pacific.
Very good. It's definitely 11 o'clock Pacific because like you, I've got international calls all the time. But yeah, Eastern, I'm impressed, Rifa. I haven't got that in the old noddle yet to know that one.
I like to keep things the same time for lots of different things because, it's stressful otherwise. And yeah, I would love to see people. I mean, I have such a practical background and all different kinds of help that I can offer different people. So I would love to just meet more people and come along and see whether you like my style of working.
Love that. That's exactly how I work. It's like either you like me or you don't, but you won't know unless you check me out. So, it's the heart again, isn't it? We know if you feel drawn. I was very drawn to my mentor from the heart. I wasn't the mentor I expected to end up with. She's based in America. You know who I'm talking about. And my heart just said, this is the one, Same with my husband. You know,
Funny that, isn't it?
isn't it?
Same.
The heart knows what it wants. So, Rifa, it's been such a joy connecting with you. Is there anything else you wanted to say or share?
Well, I mean, if anybody wants to just check out my website, it's just rifa.co.uk. And you can book a call directly with me through that site. And, I just give these free 30-minute clarity calls. So if you can't make the event, book a call and we'll have a chat. I'd love to hear from you.
Beautiful. So there you have it, everyone. Lots of, a free call, or you've got this fantastic masterclass with Rifa coming up soon. That is pay what you can. That's a really interesting model, right? I mean, that means it's open to everyone. That's very generous, very generous. Again, very heart-centered. I also love, Rifa, how inclusive you are. Whenever I look at your materials, you're really thinking about people from many different backgrounds and letting people know everyone is welcome here. I really enjoy seeing that. So thank you for giving me your time on a Saturday afternoon. Just really looking forward to our afternoon tea together next week in
I
Brighton.
am too. I am too. I just can't wait to see Mel. I feel like we've known each other a long time now, and it's a long time coming, but I can't wait. I think we're going to make beautiful things together in the future.
I know we will, and I've got a huge hug waiting for you. Hope you're a hugger.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Rifa. Please stay for a moment, but I'm just going to say goodbye to our lovely Facebook friends watching, and let's just see what people are saying in the chat before we close off. So Susan is saying, I'll be going back to the beginning of this live, which I entered into halfway through. It's late here in Australia. Global is great. Fantastic. Margot says your event sounds interesting. Susan says wonderful offering. Margot says thank you. Lovely to meet you. And Catherine, bonjour, Catherine, says, will there be cake? Will there be
Of
cake?
course.
There will be tea and cake when Rifa and I meet, 'cause we're having afternoon tea. Oh, that's what you're referring to as afternoon tea.
Yes, for sure.
I hope so. And fun. Catherine always brings the fun. I'm glad you made it, Catherine. And to anyone who's watching the recording, just always, always great to have you here. Stay tuned, stay in this group, because I'm always interviewing in here the most incredible, mostly women in business. There might be some men occasionally. And on Monday, we've got Kate Wolf coming in, who is going to be talking about your bank balance and attracting money into your bank balance. So that's going to be exciting too. Okay, Rifa, stay here. I'm just going to end the live stream. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for watching. Have an amazing weekend. See you again soon.